Welcome to Marin Voices and Views. With Lawrence A. Strick, I'm Peter B. Collins. In our second segment, Larry will talk with Marin County Supervisor Susan Adams, who is running for Congress in the new 2nd District. Since I'm working on the Adams campaign, Larry will be handling all of the upcoming interviews with the congressional candidates.
First, though, Peter, I'm pleased to welcome and introduce you to San Rafael's new police chief, Diana Bishop. Chief Bishop grew up in the peninsula in Los Altos. She's a 27-year veteran of the Santa Clara Police Force, rising to the rank of captain. She's 50 years old. Her partner, Jonna Watson, is an Oakland police officer, and she joined us 3 weeks ago. So she's going to give us her great wealth of experience here in San Rafael so far.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here.
Thanks for coming. What experience in Santa Clara, Chief, made you a great candidate for the San Rafael force?
I think what it was a combination of certainly the time that I was there, and then secondly the things I was able to do when I was there. I was able to, in a force that's probably twice as big as San Rafael, able to do everything from obviously being a patrol officer, a detective specializing in domestic violence, which was a fantastic experience, doing training, and then as I progressed through the ranks, I think what drew San Rafael people to wanting to maybe look at me for this job is I was able to be the captain for all 3 divisions in that department, one of which is field operations, which you would think of as patrol, and then administrative services, which does all the things that you don't even think a police department deals with, and then the third being investigations. So I was able to do a lot of budget stuff, contract negotiations, just dealing with a lot of different people throughout city government and throughout the county in projects that we worked on. So it was kind of the breadth of experience, I think, and the success I had in what I did.
And Diana Bishop, let me ask what you did to scope us out. You just talked about your skills as an investigator. So did you come to San Rafael and ride patrol with a cop, or did you drive around and take a look? Did you look at our budgets and layoffs? How did you scope out that this was the right job for you?
I did all of those things and more. With the advent of all the information on the internet, certainly you could sit at your home and surf the web and look at the city website, look at blogs, look at anything San Rafael related and learn a lot. But I wanted to get the feel of the city and certainly the downtown and then the department itself. So one day on a 3-day weekend, I drove here with my dog and walked him around downtown just to get the vibe and see what it felt like. I had never actually been downtown San Rafael before. My relatives live in Peacock Gap, so I had been in that part of town most often. Got the sense of the department the city, and when I talked to a lot of people who were acquaintances of mine, friends who were in Marin County law enforcement and just in Marin County in general, so got not just a police perspective, but people from education, people from other cities, a lot of educators and a lot of service providers I reached out to as well. And then lastly, yes, I made an appointment and I called the department. I said, after I became one of the 7 finalists, I didn't want to bug them when I was one of 61, but I said I'd like to come down and meet some people, and I ended up staying probably 12 hours. Went on 2 different ride-alongs, met officers, sat down with Acting Chief Franzini, who was very gracious and welcoming and gave me any information I needed, gave me budget information. So I knew the struggles the city's been having with budget. I'm an optimist, so I'm hoping that we've reached the bottom and we're going to go forward and move up incrementally. I know it's not a quick fix, but I knew that it's a challenging time, but I like challenges, and I liked everything I saw, and I really like the involvement of the community in city government, and specifically with the police department, and I like the size of the town, and certainly the location's beautiful.
Yeah, every job has challenges. I'm certainly certain that law enforcement presents unique challenges. You're new here. You did your due diligence, so to speak. Well, how do you prioritize the challenges? What are they?
for me personally, it's interesting because right now it's about learning who my people are and about them. The first 3 weeks have been meetings, interviews. We did promotions. I'm doing interviews for an admin assistant, the woman who was the backbone of the police department, Tony Archer, retired at the end of December. So now my admin person is going to be new as well. So I'm right now just learning my people, what their capabilities are, and then listening to the community and seeing what are their concerns and what are their top things that they would like their police department to do, because we do work for the community. And so I want to know what the issues are. I might think I know what the issues are because generally they're the same in most cities, but it might be something totally different here, and I need to hear that so we can address those with the staffing we have and the resources that we have.
Is there a community outreach program where if someone in San Rafael feels a need to inform the police of not just, oh, there's some garbage on my steps over here, but a systemic problem, that they could reach someone in your office or some organization in your office to discuss it with them?
There's not a group per se, but there are certainly, as I've been to the 3 meet and greets in the various parts of the city, and what I tell everyone, and I've been to a couple neighborhood watch meetings as well, is we're but 87 sets of eyes. That's how many full-time employees we have, some of whom are not sworn employees. And there are 57 or 58,000 other sets of eyes in this town, in this city, and we need to have people call and say, hey, this doesn't feel right, or this doesn't seem right, and you certainly have them call dispatch, maybe not 911 if it's not an emergency that's occurring then, but we want to know things, and the dispatchers know to whom to give that information. And they could come in the front desk and talk to one of the clerks and say, I've seen this, I'm not sure about it. But we also are really trying to even more so fortify our neighborhood watch groups. And the neighborhoods are very strong in San Rafael. I know that people have an identity, firstly, I think, with their neighborhood, and secondly, with the city. And each group wants to look out for their own interests and also what's going on in their area. And I want my beat officers who have that area mostly to go to those meetings and hear the concerns and find out what is going on and bring that back to their beat partners or their people on their shift, so they can say, oh, that's happening over here, or that's happening here, and we don't reinvent the wheel each time. So I'd like to hear from the community, yes.
Chief Bishop, what's your approach to the Canal community and the undocumented population?
Well, my approach to any community is that we're here to serve the community. One of the most pleasant experiences I've had is at Pickleweed. The meet and greet was the most attended. It was pouring cats and dogs. There were probably 50 people. My main concern is that we provide service to whoever needs police service. I'm not an immigration officer. I'm not setting federal policy or state policy, but rather asked to uphold state laws and certainly San Rafael laws in San Rafael. So my main objective is if someone's breaking the law, they're going to go to jail. And if someone needs help, we're going to assist them.
Habla español?
Poquito I can understand, but I feel badly that I would butcher the language if I tried.
I'm a businessman here in San Rafael, and I don't necessarily have the notion that there's a lot of gang activity there. Am I right? Am I wrong? Are there gangs here?
There are gangs in San Rafael. Primarily Hispanic gangs and primarily in the Canal neighborhood. And I think that the sad part is that from what I know and from my research and then being here for 3 whole weeks is that there are people who are really working hard, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 jobs trying to make a living, and some people that have come into that area have chosen the wrong path and are just looking for victims. And I think unfortunately they find them, and it's just a turf war, and it's certainly not a huge problem. I don't want to portray it as that, but we can't put our heads in the sand and say it's not a problem. We have very active investigations division we have 2 or 3 officers who are experts in gangs, and I in fact just went to a Marin County Board of Education kind of county-wide meeting where everyone in the room talked about what things are going on in the schools, and did Novato and we did gang presentations about what to the administrators, what the teachers could look for with the clothing. It's a little more subtle than we think from the movies or what we've seen. So there is an issue, and we are aware of that, and we have people dealing with it.
Chief Bishop, please indulge me. I'm on a crusade to get rid of the red light cameras in San Rafael.
I've heard that, yes.
60% of the tickets written are for incomplete right turn or incomplete legal turns, either left or right. Millions of dollars have been collected. The city only gets $137 on a $470 ticket. And I have issues with the legality of the process, where there's no human involved in writing this citation, and therefore the evidence becomes hearsay. What's your position on the cameras, and will you advise the council, which is in the process of reviewing them now?
I have some information just on kind of how the tickets are screened. So if 100 people were caught going through over the limit line after the light turns red, we actually have an employee who looks at each and every one of those. The company in Arizona sends the ones that are, they believe, clear-cut violations, meaning you're way past the limit line and the person's face is recognizable and the plate of the vehicle is also recognizable. And my employee looks at those on a pretty big darn screen and says, I'm not so sure that person is not going to get a citation in the mail. It's a very much of, more even so of a preponderance of the evidence. I would say it's pretty darn sure we're going to err on the side of caution. It's definitely not to be a moneymaker. It's to be a deterrent for safety. One of the things I learned at the B Street community meeting is the people, one of their main problems or main things they wanted us to work on was pedestrian safety. A lot of those things you're talking about are right turns where the person's like, they're looking here to make sure cars aren't coming this way, and they make that right turn, and there might be someone waiting at that crosswalk. So there's a lot of things that are involved. It's all about safety. We're not trying to get money in our pockets. We're not a money-making organization. We are not trying to inconvenience or hassle people. But the goal was, hey, we've not been able to field a traffic unit, the motorcycle police officers. We don't have traffic enforcement except the officers who are out on the beat handling the 911 calls. So and this is obviously before my time, but what can the city do to target intersections that perhaps are the most dangerous, to get people's attention, to slow down, be aware of their surroundings, and et cetera.
So do you expect to recommend continuation of the program?
Not necessarily. I think that there's a time frame in which our contract runs. I think it's 2 more years or maybe a little more than that. And during that time frame, we can add more cameras. The contract says we could go up to 10. I don't see that happening, just the information I have. So I think we're going to take a hard look at, okay, what did we learn? What are the statistics? What are the up-to-date information? What were our goals? And if we haven't reached those goals, I don't have a problem saying, hey, that was a great try, let's try something else. So it's not set in stone.
I'm gonna give you a big break here in 30 seconds, and given the budget problems that every police force has, what's your vision of your tenure here? Are you positive about what's going to be going on?
Yes, I wouldn't have come if I wasn't positive. I'm already, even in the short time I've been here, we've got to do some great things. We've promoted a sergeant, promoted a corporal, promoted a dispatcher, and we are looking at, actually, we posted a job announcement today internally to staff 2 motorcycle officer positions. That is a big deal. The community is clamoring for traffic enforcement. That's their main focus. And it's an assignment that people love to do. They're passionate about it. It's fun, quite frankly. I've never done it, but it looks fun, and but dangerous. So my goal is to see where we are, see where we've been, and maybe go do some of the things that we've done before, but just reinvent what's already pretty darn good and say, we need to work on this or this. These are the things that the community or the mayor or the city council or the city manager are saying, these are important to us, and we are your constituents, or we are your bosses, quite frankly. So this is what we'd like you to do, and we're here to serve, and we want to address things that can be truly addressed, and whether it's just by the police department or by the whole city and each department, we're in.
Well, thank you for joining us, San Rafael's new police chief, Diana Bishop.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Supervisor Susan Adams is a nurse, a teacher, a mother, a grandmother, and currently serves as president of the Board of Supervisors here in Marin County. I could address her as Dr. Adams, as she's a PhD in nursing, which she achieved at UCSF and remains an adjunct professor at Dominican University Graduate School of Nursing. She served on the Board of Supervisors since 2002, but tonight she comes back to our show wearing the hat as candidate for the United States Congress for the newly drawn 2nd District here in Marin, going way up to Oregon. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Good. You just were you were recently reelected to your job after a rather contentious race. And having just won a hard race, what were the factors that motivated you to throw your hat in the ring for what appears to be even a more difficult race?
Well, that race primed me for this, so I'm ready
Good for
to. I'm
you.
ready to go. I think that of all of the candidates in the race, I bring a unique perspective and a unique set of skills from being in the trenches with the working people as a nurse, changing bedpans and helping babies come into the world, to being an organizer for California nurses, to being a policymaker in local government, where you have to be a jack of all trades and understand deeply a number of issues. And I've been able to solve problems at the local level, bringing people together, and I think those skills will serve me well for the people of this district should they decide to vote for me.
In your race, there's 4 or 5 other folks running.
Well, there's I think about 12 of us now.
There's 12 of you
But
running. Okay.
there's probably 4 candidates that have a little bit more attention paid to them.
Okay, there's 4 others. There's 5 of you guys, women and guys, running. I think it's easy to say that all of you are going to say that you're for jobs, you're for green jobs, you're for affordable health care, for increased education funding, a clean environment. What specifically sets you apart from the others on some of those issues?
Well, as I've said when we've been on the campaign trail, we're probably going to vote very similarly in those big votes on the floor with democratic principles. But the skills that I bring is, how do we get the votes to get there for those issues? How do we reach the different members of the body and provide the information and education about the issues in a way that helps to inform them and maybe helps to build relationships. And it's going to be about building relationships. I have gone to bat for a number of really tough issues. I helped launch Marin Clean Energy and put PG&E on notice on that one, and we are still fighting some pretty tough battles with PG&E on that. But we set the stage so that other communities in this district can actually follow suit. I helped to wrestle dollars out of Comcast so that we could have this beautiful media center
and
here.
we all thank you for that. And that's still going on.
And it's still going on. We still have a commitment to keep that going. But I think my perspective in healthcare and my work in the national health arena through my work at the National Association of Counties has provided me also the federal connections to be able to work on some of these key issues. My background in healthcare is we're trying to launch the Affordable Health Care Act. I think is going to be incredibly important in Washington right now.
You do have a tremendous record of working collaboratively in Marin on issues like Marin Energy, the quarry over there. I know that's...
that was a really tough one.
There you go. And is that done?
Actually, it is. It was an 8-year battle.
Good.
But we have 173 conditions of operation that both the quarry and the community agreed to at our board meeting. And so my board didn't have to make a decision about whether or not to support business over public interest.
That sounds like a win-win.
It was absolutely a win-win.
But so taking this record of collaboration and something you'd like to bring, how do you perceive essentially a backbench congressional freshman working with a Congress that everyone's saying is a do-nothing Congress? Is that a challenge that is more fun for you than working and accomplishing things here in Marin?
Well, I've worked and accomplished things in Marin for 9 years now. I'm in my third term, and my checklist, I've pretty much checked off all the things in the
Great.
box that I wanted to accomplish. I love the challenge, and I love building relationships, and I love finding the way to yes. And I've been able to do that. And if you can work with somebody to find your way on common agreement on at least 4 or 5 different issues and establish that you do have shared interest, then you can begin those conversations that are tougher. I think the political rhetoric has undermined our ability to do problem solving at the national level. I think the sentiment that you have to vote a certain way so that your party gets an advantage rather than what's the best way for the American people has been unfortunate. And I have had a great deal of success. It's not just in the congressional chambers either with those leadership, but it's about also having those relationships with the different regulatory agencies. And we've been very successful in Marin County, and I've been lobbying to bring resources home to our county. We have a board that does play an active role in Washington politics. We have a $25 million non-motorized grant for our walkable, bikeable pathways. I was able to help insert some language in federal legislation so that our flood zone districts could actually help to buy up for their cost benefit share, so that if they didn't quite meet the ratio, they could pay up a little bit higher so that they could access federal dollars. So there's a lot more to being a congressperson than just writing bills and voting on bills. And I think a lot of it is establishing relationships. And I think until we have a little bit more gender balance in our congressional leadership, I think we will not get to see the benefits of having women representatives on the board where we collaborate and bring people together. And it's a different way of solving problems. Doesn't mean one's better than the other, but I think there needs to be a little more balance in the way we do business.
You know, this congressional race it's a new district. It's a new type of election too, isn't it? Can you explain how it works and what's going on so that the voters can understand what they're going to be how and who they're going to be voting for? And then give me some insight. Do you think if it helps your candidacy or not, a race like this?
Well, the district, as you said earlier, goes from the north end of the Golden Gate Bridge up to the Oregon border. It's geographically a very huge district. I'm putting about 1,000 to 1,200 miles on my vehicle in a weekend. Thank goodness I have my Prius. And it's an open primary, which means that every single voter will get the full list of every single candidate, no matter what their party is. And every voter will have the opportunity to look at the list and choose which candidate they think is the best. And it will be the top 2 candidates that go to the November election. And in an election with 2 or 3 Republicans, it could very well be in a very heavily Democratic district like this one, 2 Democrats that go to November. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Of course, this district had 2 representatives before, Lynn Woolsey, who will be retiring, who represented the southern part, and Mike Thompson, who's been redistricted into the new 5th district, will no longer be representing the north end. But I think how I win this is my deep roots in the community. I'm 4th generational Mendocino ranching family. I've been a longtime resident of Marin County, very actively engaged in local politics, and I have family in Humboldt. And those connections are resonating really well with people. There's a lot of buzz about me, especially in the northern counties, where people are concerned that their representative might just get elected. They're showing up to get the vote, and then after the vote, you never see them again.
No, they're back down here.
They're back down home here. And I've made the commitment that if I am elected, I will spend equal amounts of time in both ends of my district, because I have family there, so it's not a hardship for me to spend time in the north part of the county.
So whoever the number 1 woman is and the number 2 women is, those 2
I
women.
like the way you're
thinking. You get those 2 women running against each other in November. So you're running 2 races.
Right.
And that's how it's going to work for people. And there may be two Democrats, and there may not even be a Republican at all in this particular race.
Right. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
I once had the fortune of talking to Congressman Pete McCloskey. And he was talking about his service in Congress. And one of the things that he told me is when he first got there, I mean, it took him a couple of elections to even get his sea legs in the building. I mean, he was just, you know, marginalized. So my thought was asking you, let's envision you running for your 6th term. What are the things you would have liked to accomplish by then?
I think ensuring that we have a health care system that's working for the American people, and making sure that we don't lose the little bit of ground that we've been able to obtain through the Affordable Health Care Act that was just passed. I think having the conversation and moving the agenda forward for a clean energy future. I'm very excited about the possibilities of what we're doing here in Marin County, and Arcata is right now talking to Marin County about how can we join. My vision would be that the 2nd Congressional District can show the rest of the country how we can be off the fossil fuel grid for our home energy use in the next 10 years. And I think that's not impossible to do. And at the local level, we're doing it. So I think at the national level, we need to get out of the way sometimes for our local policymakers and local communities to figure out how to do it in their own unique way.
And how do you feel about the challenge of these big national issues that you get to think about when you're a congresswoman? I mean, you know, they go to Somalia and there's pirates and they go rescue a couple of people the other day, and there's wars all over the place and defense funding. What are your thoughts about that?
We do spend a lot of money in defense, and in fact, you know, the fact that we had tax cuts at a time when we launched wars overseas, I don't think was a very smart move, and in many ways probably contributed to where we are with this recession right now. But I'm excited about it. When I first was elected to the Board of Supervisors, the overwhelming sense of responsibility, now I have to do this job and really be true to my people. There were parts of it that were terrifying at first. But I think I've been able to learn the job and do the job well, and I have a lot of credibility in my community. I enjoy being able to solve problems, and I want to be able to bring those skills with me to Washington, and I'm not afraid of that like I was launching into a Board of Supervisors. I have the skills now.
I'm sure you have nothing to fear. You're gonna, if elected and serve, I'm sure you're gonna be doing a great job. I will give you a piece of advice. Having lived in Washington for 4 years, the summers are brutal.
I know, I've been there in the summers.
Anyway, good luck on your race.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for coming back, Susan.
Thank you for having me here tonight.
Thanks.